Are you performing enough effective reps during your workouts? Are you doing junk volume that's wasting your time in the gym? And could you be training to failure more often? These are topics we're going to address in today's video. Now, during recent years, there's been a bit of a shift away from using training volume as a measurement of how much work you should do during a training session and throughout the week, and moving a bit more towards how many effective reps that you're performing. I think a lot of this comes down to observations from us coaches, seeing that a lot of our fellow bros out there are performing volume for the sake of volume. They read a research paper and see that the guidelines are that you should perform between 10 and 20 sets per muscle group per week. So they feel they've got to try to hit there. And a lot of guys are like, I want to hit that maximum 20. If 10 is good, 20's got to be better. And really recognizing that a lot of the volume that they're performing isn't really leading to better gains. It's actually hindering their progress. Or it's basically useless volume. They're going above and beyond what is necessary to cause that adaptation with their physique to grow and transform, or they're performing a lot of repetitions that are really not stimulating that growth response. And we're also noticing a pendulum swing going a little bit more towards training to failure more often. And again, I think a lot of this comes down to observations from us coaches during the past few years, where the advice has been to be very selective as to when you train to failure, that most of your sets should have several reps in reserve, like whether it's 5, 4, 3 reps in reserve. You don't want to take every single set to failure. But we're really noticing that a lot of the bros out there are kind of using this as a bit of an excuse to not get uncomfortable, to not push themselves the way that they really have the potential to push themselves during their training sessions. Now, I want it to be very, very clear here that none of us have the answer. There is no the way to approach our training. I think all of the approaches that we're going to cover in today's video all have merit. Now, first, let's talk about what are effective reps. It's important to note that this is just theory up to this point. This is not an exact science. But the general consensus is that it's the last 5 repetitions leading up to that point of true momentary muscular failure. Doesn't matter whether it is a 6 repetition set or a 15 repetition set, those last 5 repetitions are your effective reps. It's also important to note that those 5 repetitions are not created equal. If you perform a set where you're leaving 5 reps in reserve, there's going to be a big difference compared to a set where you're leaving 1 rep in reserve. 4 reps in reserve, still a pretty big difference. 3 reps in reserve, a fairly big difference. 2 reps in reserve, difference gets smaller, much smaller. 1 rep in reserve, it's going to be very close to a set where you're taking it to the point of true momentary muscular failure. So the difference gets less and less the closer you are to that point of true momentary muscular failure. Now, as I've mentioned in previous videos, all rep ranges are equally as effective at building muscle as long as you're bringing those sets to the point or very, very close to the point of true momentary muscular failure. I also mentioned that for those bros who tend to perform higher repetition sets more often, find that a lot of them are stopping their sets short, not of the point of momentary muscular failure, but because the burning sensation becomes overwhelming, or they just mentally check out. They're just done with that set. They just can't stand to do any more repetitions there, or they're like winded, they're gassed, especially if it's like a high rep leg press or high rep hack squat. Something like that can be very taxing on them. So they're not even coming nearly what they think is 5 reps in reserve is not 5 reps in reserve, because they're stopping not from the point of momentary muscular failure, but from the point where they just can't take it anymore mentally for the most part there. And this really kind of ties in line with a lot of others who feel like when you're doing high rep sets, although they may be as effective at building muscle compared to lower rep sets, as long as you're bringing those sets very close to the point or to the point of true momentary muscular failure, a lot of those repetitions are going to be junk volume, unnecessary volume. So you're doing a 20 rep set, 5 reps are effective, 15 reps basically not effective at all for stimulating muscle growth. Now, I've heard fellow coach Christian Thibodeau talk about this a lot lately, how he's kind of designing his programming to incorporate, make sure most of the reps that he's performing are effective reps. So he's keeping a lot of his sets, from what I understand, below 10 repetitions. So most of his reps that he's performing throughout the workout are going to be effective reps. Now, again, you got to know yourself when it comes to this. There's going to be some exercises where if you pick a load that allows you to perform 10 repetitions, that load may be too difficult on your joints, too difficult on your body. Maybe a lateral raise, 10 reps with the lateral raise, that load just really bothers your shoulder. So you have to go lighter and perform high repetitions. So know yourself. And again, like I said earlier, there is no right or wrong answer. There is no the way. But again, if you're going to perform higher rep sets, really make sure that you're bringing them to that point or very close to the point of true momentary muscular failure and not stopping short just because the burning sensation becomes overwhelming to you there. Now, let's talk about training to failure, because in order to determine what are effective reps, you need to know what training to failure actually looks like. And according to the research, we really suck at gauging what true momentary muscular failure looks like. For those, some of the studies out there, they're showing like what you thought was failure is like 5 reps less than failure, 10 reps less than failure. You could do more, way more than we think we can. So if you think you're leaving 5 reps in the tank, a lot of time you might be leaving 10 reps in reserve instead. So you're not getting any effective reps, even though you think you are. So really got to become aware of that. And what is true momentary muscular failure? You see guys like Dr. Mike Israetel out there, leg day, he's been known to show videos where he's puking there. So is that to the point of true momentary muscular failure? If that's the case, like none of us, hardly any of us, are even coming anywhere near that point of true momentary muscular failure. So you really need to take that into consideration. And really important to note that the exercise really makes a big difference in whether or not you should take that to the point of true momentary muscular failure as well, or very close to it. Like a squat or a deadlift, I definitely like to keep at least 1 rep in reserve. Those are exercises that I never train to the point of true momentary muscular failure because of the risk of injury when it comes to that. When it comes to like isolation exercises, you should be taking every set to the point of true momentary muscular failure, leaving no more than 1 rep in reserve. There's just no reason to be leaving 5 reps in reserve for a dumbbell bicep curl, even though it's your first set. Crush every freaking set when it comes to those isolation exercises. And when it comes to safety as well, like a barbell bench press, that's another one where I'm going to be smart, especially if I don't have a smarter. Definitely leave 1 rep in reserve there. But if you're using like a plate-loaded hammer strength chest press machine, you can get to that point of true momentary muscular failure and maybe even finish with a partial rep there. You don't have to worry that fear of failure. You're not going to hurt yourself in that point. Just lower it slow and control. It's not going to fall on your chest. You're not going to dump the bar or anything like that. So exercise selection definitely plays a role in which ones you should be taking very close to that point of true momentary muscular failure as well. So being selective, like selecting the right exercises that will allow you to take to that point, but being smart with some of the exercises that you like to include in your training, but also know that there's some risk involved when it comes to that. Now, reflecting back on my training during the past few years, I definitely experimented with a variety of approaches here. A few years ago, I was following an approach where first set, I leave 2 to 3 reps in reserve. Second set, 1 to 2 reps in reserve. Last set, best set, to the point of true momentary muscular failure, and sometimes safely beyond that point of true momentary muscular failure. Absolutely loved it. Fantastic approach. Then about just a little bit more than a year ago, I started experimenting with approach where the first 2 sets were absolutely nowhere near the point of momentary muscular failure. It's basically just like 2 warm-up sets to get a feel for the movement, and then 1 all-out freaking set to the point of true momentary muscular failure. The Mike Menser, Dorian Yates approach, where it's like they say they're only doing 1 set, but they had a couple warm-up sets leading up to it. Absolutely love that. Did that for about 4 months. I saw like Paul Carter was doing that. Jay Ferrugia really likes that approach as well. And then during the past, I'd say like 6, maybe even 7 months, I've been going with an approach where first set, I only leave 1 rep in reserve. Second and third set to the point of true momentary muscular failure, and for some sets, safely beyond that point of momentary muscular failure. I've seen like in some videos, Sean Nalawani has mentioned that this is an approach he uses as well. Like, again, all coming down to effective reps, giving the best of ourselves to each set that we're performing. Now, I do get comments recently since I've adopted this approach here that training to failure you should avoid at all costs, or at least most of the time you should be selective with when you use that. And again, these keyboard jockeys referencing studies where the 1 or 2 studies that showed that training to failure was either equally as effective or even a little bit less effective than leaving a few reps in reserve there. Now, the thing with studies is that there's always limitations. There's so many variables that are really difficult for these researchers to control. And oftentimes I find with a lot of this research, the workout plans that they're following are nowhere near what most of us would ever follow. It's certainly not a plan that I would ever follow in my lifetime. So you really got to take this research with a grain of salt. And here's the other thing. So that's point number one. Point number two is that when I am taking all of my sets to like 1 rep in reserve or to the point of true momentary muscular failure, I don't need to perform as many sets and as many exercises as someone who's leaving like 5 reps in reserve for the first set, 3 reps in reserve for the second set, and saving it for like 1 rep in reserve for the last set. Like, you need to do more sets, more exercises in a workout in order to add up to the amount of effective reps that I'm performing in my workouts. Like for chest, for example, like I do a plate loaded chest press, maybe 6 to 10 repetitions. First set, 1 rep in reserve. Second and third set, to the point of true momentary muscular failure. Second exercise, dumbbell incline bench press, 8 to 12 repetitions. Again, 1 rep in reserve for the first set, to the point of true momentary muscular failure for the second and the third set. I'm done for chest. Like, that's all I need is 2 exercises, 3 sets each. Yes, I could try to do like a machine fly for maybe 12 to 15 repetitions because my chest is smoked and I have to go a little bit lighter there. But really, like, the muscles are like so fatigued that I'm really not gonna feel the contraction very effectively, and basically it's gonna be considered junk volume, something that I don't need. It's beyond what I need to spark that growth stimulus there. It's basically useless. I'm wasting my time in the gym by doing that third exercise. So I am getting done my workouts quicker because I'm taking each set very close to or to that point of true momentary muscular failure. And again, those people will argue that, oh, that's too much accumulated fatigue there. It's going to take you longer to recover from. The thing is, like, if you have to do more exercises and more sets, that's accumulated fatigue as well, even though you're not bringing it to the point of true momentary muscular failure. There's no like best case scenario though. We don't really know what is the best situation there for muscle growth. And again, I find the people who are avoiding training muscular failure they think they're leaving 3 reps in reserve. Chances are it's more reps in reserve and they're not getting nearly the effective reps that they think they are performing. Like, point number 3 is that if you're saying like accumulated fatigue is going to impact your recovery and everything, I find the factor that impacts most people's recovery is their lifestyle. Like, they're not getting enough sleep, they're stressed, and in those situations, you shouldn't be training to failure. You should actually be reducing your training volume. Hopefully that's not all the time. Hopefully you get your stress and your sleep under control, but don't blame it on training to failure for causing your fatigue and overtraining. It is your lifestyle that is a result of that. Maybe you're not getting an adequate amount of nutrients in your body as well. So there's so many other factors that come into your recovery, even your training plan, your training structure. I was having a great conversation with a new customer of the Lose Fat, Get Jacked Body Transformation System just the other day, where he was asking me questions about the training structure. And yeah, like, I'll have one workout that's like the compound movements where I'm challenging myself to that point of true momentary muscular failure. And let's say it's a push workout with chest, shoulders, and triceps. The next workout I do will be like isolation exercise, something that's easier on my joints, still training to the point of true momentary muscular failure, but it's not the same kind of fatigue that's going to accumulate compared to like some of the compound movements that I'm performing. So structuring your workout intelligently in regards to how your split looks like, the number of days that you're training, and again, paying attention to all the other factors that are going to have a positive impact on your recovery. So really, as I mentioned, there is no right way. There is no the way. None of us have the answer to which of these approaches is best. I have experimented with each of these approaches. I loved all of the approaches. Right now, I am loving this approach right now. I may change it up a few months from now. And again, it's all about just having fun. Don't get stuck posturing about what is the best approach out there. I really love, Lane Norton did a post recently where he's like, stop all this freaking nonsense of focusing on the minutia and just work hard. And I think that's the message that we're really seeing starting to come out there, and why we're seeing more people kind of gear more towards training to failure, because we just want people to train hard rather than, oh, I think I should maybe leave this is an RPE 6 or an RPE 7. Like, just freaking train hard, train smart, and have fun. That's really what this is all about. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What are your personal experiences? Please take a moment to drop them down in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please do me a favor and smash that thumbs up button. I'd really appreciate it. If you want some more videos like this, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Hit the alert button so you're notified each time I upload a video. If you know a fellow bro who would benefit from watching today's video, please do me a favor and share it with them. Before you go, don't forget to download your free guide to Lose Fat, Get Jacked. Have yourself an amazing day. Catch you next video.